I'm gonna try to call Lawrence Harvey again.
Who?
Lawrence Harvey,
Oh.
Bedice, Texas.
Okay. We are recording.
Can I hit him?
If you want that recorded for posterity, you can do whatever however you want posterity to remember you.
He just hit me
Well,
in the shoulder.
tit for tat then.
Ouch.
Where's your arm?
She reaches over, hits this spot on my arm, right there.
What's with that particular spot?
Well, Dr. Smith operated on it one time. There was a black spot there, and I thought, damn, that could be a blackhead. And I squeezed it real bad, and then it got infected. He cut it open and did something, but it's right on top of a nerve.
Ah, so it's very
You
sensitive.
touch it like that, it hurts like a knife blade. Yeah.
Why do you do it? That's what I don't understand. He gets mad when I accidentally grab his arm, and he stands there and does this all the time.
But she's doing good. I'm embarrassed that in our meeting, that I didn't make a better presentation about how proud we are of our children, you and Karen and Sarah and our grandchildren, all in the time of 58 years, and still going strong, even though we're both pretty weak.
We're both pretty weak. We're both pretty weak.
But I appreciated talking, but I was thinking about it, and I thought, what a shame I didn't really make a presentation and introduce you folks instead of just saying, introduce yourself.
Well, it was sprung on you. You weren't really anticipating that.
Mm-mm.
Didn't
That's
have
the
time to
difference,
write up a...
is when you...
Yeah, I was. Anyway, I'm the old man anymore.
You're the old man. That's right.
the operating OM.
Yeah, the old man, and Jim follows me, and then Dave, and then Bobby. What you want to talk about?
I don't think it needs to be about anything in particular. I guess, how much did we talk about your family last time, Mom?
I don't think we talked about them much.
Well, maybe this would be a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah.
I don't know much about Mother's family. I know a whole lot about my father's family because I spent summers over there with his sister and her husband. Over
It was in the country house
over
on the
in
farm.
Sinking Creek, yeah. And it was real interesting. A couple of years ago, they had a reunion and they wrote a book, and they invited Kenneth, my cousin, and invited us to come as representatives of JOPJ's children. So Betty and I went. And it was real interesting. We saw all the things in the church. I had never been in the church, or if I had, I don't remember, that he made, because he was a carpenter. And it was real interesting.
And J.O.P., who was J.O.P.?
My grandfather,
Grandfather, on your father's side. Mm-hmm.
John Ottaway Preston Johnston.
He's the one who made that bed, right? That
He's
we
the
have.
one that made the bed.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he made all the church furniture, speaking
Pews
stands, yeah, all that kind of stuff. It's still over there.
Lectern.
What's the name of the church?
Well, I think it's in Newcastle Methodist Church, actually.
Mm-hmm.
I have a book about it, and which is really interesting. It talks about him. It talks about everyone in the church and everything. And
Was that book an outcome of the family reunion?
no, they had it where you could buy it at the family reunion, I think. Or maybe, no, it must not have, because I believe my picture's in there, so they must have, you could take an order for it. And it was real interesting about it.
How many people were there, roughly?
I don't know, the church looked full. Of course, it was not a big church, but, and that's where Dad went. And Kenneth talked about going with JOPJ on early Sunday morning and building a fire in the fireplace because of winter time.
To warm up the church before the...
So it would warm up, yeah.
Was that in Sinking Creek? Where did you say it was?
It's in Sinking Creek. It's on the road over to Aunt Anna's. And it's several miles before there. Now, Aunt Anna, after she married Uncle Lester, she joined a different church. Joined his church, but
It was a real interesting, I thought a real interesting meeting, and talked about the families. And the Johnston family, let's see, they landed in Baltimore, I believe, and walked down or rode horses, whatever, down the Shenandoah Valley, and met up with the earlier Johnston family that was there in Trigg.
which used to be known as Irish, but it's known as Trigg now. And the Staffords were there because I don't know whether it's my father. Anyway, the Johnstons came over from Scotland. The Staffords came over from England. They met and married, and they came to the States in 1790, I think. That's when they came. And
From Ireland.
from Ireland, yeah.
They met there in Ireland in Fermanagh, Ireland.
Or Erskine, the county was
Elskidden,
something like that. but the
Elskidden County
was.
in Fermanagh. The Johnston family goes way back. On one of the side of the families goes back to Eric the Red, and which is kind of interesting. That's why she's a ginger.
No, I'm Irish. That's why I'm a redhead. By bottle now, but anyway, I was a redhead naturally.
So Eric the Red was named that for his hair and not for his bloody exploits.
Was what?
Not for his bloody exploits. Eric the Red.
Probably.
And King, what was the King? The sister? Go back to the sister, to the queen who was murdered by her husband.
Had her head chopped off.
Catherine, is that Catherine? Henry VIII?
I can't remember
I
which
think it was
one.
Henry VIII.
Henry VIII, yeah. But I don't know which wife it was.
His wife,
His wife,
his sister was involved.
I was
or her sister
religious
was
to
involved.
her sister, related to her sister. But by saying related, it jumped from husband to sister to, it wasn't a direct line
Right.
at all.
Goes all back to Eric the Red, and over in France.
I thought he was in Scandinavia.
I don't know. I think in France. But after he came down from Norway or Sweden or wherever he,
Mm-hmm.
so you got interesting bloodline.
Now, his mother, my mother never met her. She got up from the table one day with a frying pan to walk back to the kitchen and dropped dead.
Talking about her father's mother.
Uh-huh. And
What was her name?
Virginia Elizabeth.
Oh, how about that?
So
I don't
I'm
think I ever knew
Virginia and
that.
Betty's Elizabeth.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm trying to think what was her
Maiden name?
I can't remember. all.
Reynolds.
Reynolds.
And her father went to war, to the Civil War, and he died after 1 week of dysentery. He was a Reynolds, and they only had 2 children. Missouri Jane was my grandmother's sister, which I think is an interesting name for back then.
Mm-hmm.
And I have no idea what happened to her or anything, but we went up because we went down to Appomattox and we found in a book, we found the lot number of where he was supposed to be buried. So we thought we'd go up and see it. It was on the peninsula of Maryland. And they had dug up most of the graves because the water came up, and they put them in one massive grave.
Wow.
So I was disappointed. I thought maybe we'd get up there and see it.
His name's on the marker, but they actually dug up the graves and put them all in one big grave in higher land.
Whereabouts was that?
This
in
is
Maryland?
peninsula out of Maryland. I don't know what, we'll have to show you that.
The reason I ask is I have some of my explorer buddies have shot a graveyard that's eroding into the bay. There are probably multiple graveyards, but wouldn't it be something if that was
Yeah.
the same one?
Yeah. Well, I'm sure, I think there were still graves there, but his had been dug up. And there's a big marker that has all their names on them,
Wow.
Yeah.
all the ones they dug up. So,
Yeah, it was, I think they were, not only high water, but actually washing away.
Yeah, well, my explorer buddies have pictures showing exposed coffins, bones emptying into the bay. And they talked to some of the locals, and the locals are well aware of it, but I don't think they have the jurisdiction to do anything with it, or nobody knows who owns the property, and maybe they don't have the funds.
So I think this is in a formal cemetery. We've got the records of it somewhere,
wow.
and we went up there. I think we took pictures, didn't we?
I don't know.
I think we did. Now, where they are, is another story.
When did y'all go up? When did you visit that cemetery?
10 years ago, maybe 15. Who was the other one died, and where is he?
Well, Mother's had 2. Mother's, I guess it was her father, one her grandfather. Her father fought in the war. His brother was killed, and he had his leg cut off. They were from Bedford County. And he ended up being superintendent of school in Bedford
Bedford
County.
County. There's the Board, it's a Board family, and they live down there. There's a Board Mountain down in Bedford County. Virginia said she and Betty went down there to look around and stopped at a little store and said, "Where were the boards?"
Where is the Board Mountain?
And she said, turned around and pointed across the road.
Look
and
out
there
the
it is.
window.
Board Mountain, which was that family.
And that was in Bedford. So if Grandma was born she was born in 1900, right? And her father fought in the war, in the Civil War.
No, it must
Have been a grandfather. Yeah. But Luther was born
1888.
1888.
Now I guess it was his grandfather that was in the war.
Over in Trigg is it a Methodist church?
I think so.
Methodist church that was donated by the board, by the Johnson family. The property was and built. And so some of the family members over there, I don't remember the name of the church, but it was originally called Irish.
Irish settlement was.
And it
And
later changed
it's
to
usually
Trigg.
open there. We went in and some of the stained glass windows had Johnston on them and some had Stafford on them. So that was real interesting.
Now, am I recalling this correctly? That Grandma Johnson did she go to a Lutheran church, or did she just work for a Lutheran church? Or am I completely misremembering that?
I don't know. As far as I remember, they were always Methodist. But that doesn't mean anything.
That's the Johnstons were always Methodist. What about the Boards? Also
I guess
Methodist?
so, or anyway, that's the church we went to. But Betty surprised me when she said, "Well, I didn't know our family was Democratic." And I thought, well, I did. She voted for Trump.
Right.
I give her credit, she's had a stroke. So
That's an excuse, or
Because she had a stroke and upset her brain, that's why she voted. Must be.
no,
because-
she always voted Republican.
I thought you said that she was very unhappy with Trump. Wasn't sure that she could vote for him. I guess she ended up
Well,
voting along party lines anyway.
she was unhappy with him. He was not her pick. She had, because I'd asked her which one when they were having all the debates. Of course, there were that many of them.
Right.
Which one was she going to vote for? She said she didn't know. She liked Ted
Cruz. Yeah.
I thought
It,
one
it
of
makes me
No,
shudder.
not much better.
I thought one of the best qualified was the Florida guy. I can't remember his name now,
Rubio.
but
Oh.
he didn't have a lot of experience, but he seemed like he had a lot of sense in the debates.
You know, I like the Ohio governor.
Kasich.
He makes sense now.
I somehow got on his mailing list, and it looks. I'm wondering if he's not trying to position himself for the next election, assuming that Trump's not going to be running again.
I hope he's not around by that time.
Yeah.
But
So Luther had Mary as his sister. Did he have any other
she was the
siblings?
youngest.
Okay.
And he had Aunt Anna, that's the one I stayed with over there.
In Sinking Creek.
And he had an older brother who died about in 38. I can't even think of his name right now. Because they lived in Covington and we never really saw that much of them. But he had an older brother. So that was all of them, I think. Can you think of anybody else?
I thought there was some down in, did we go visit some down in North Carolina?
No. There's no one down in North Carolina.
Or maybe in Eastern Virginia somewhere.
Well,
We went with-
Selma was in Eastern Virginia, and Aunt Anna lived with her after Uncle Lester died.
Who was the fellow we rode with and his, was a high school friend of mine. We went down to, was it North Carolina or Bedford, or Danville or Martinsville or
We went down to Greensboro
Greensboro?
and visited Mother's brother,
Okay,
Marilyn, and his wife.
right, I remember that now.
What was his name?
Marilyn,
Marilyn?
Marilyn,
Malin
Marilyn,
Board.
yeah.
Maylon?
No, I don't know how to spell it.
Huh.
I don't know.
But I remember
Mother had, Aunt Elsie was the oldest. Then it was Mother, I guess. Then it was I can't think of her name. She was Peggy's mother. She had mental problems.
she was over in Catawba
uh-huh.
Hospital.
And then Aunt Elsie was the youngest. No, she had a brother who was the youngest, Uncle Ralph. And of course they're all dead. But
Your father died when you were in college? Karen corrected me on that. I thought that you were in high school for some reason.
1954, wasn't it?
54.
Yeah.
Yep. No, it may have been 53. It may have been, because it was in the fall and I went back to, no, it was 54. Because I was back in school.
That's what I remember, 54.
And he died of kidney disease, which I'm sure would have been easily cured nowadays.
Or managed through dialysis?
Yeah, he was gassed. He was a radio operator of communications
In World War I.
in World War I and was gassed.
And that may have had something to do with it. Yeah, he got a stipend from the government every month for being gassed, $15.
I'm surprised your mother didn't get some compensation after he died.
I don't think she did.
Was that, what was that? Chlorine gas or phosgene? What is it?
I don't know.
It was, I don't know, but it killed a lot of them. My father would never talk about war. And I never thought really a whole lot about asking him about it. But a friend of his said he would never mention it. He said it was too horrible to even talk about. Because he was in the foxholes.
In France,
In France. Uh-huh.
I have his chest, or what do you call it?
It bothered his lungs, the gas did, because when he came back, he had to stay over at Catawba Sanatorium for a while.
I wasn't aware of that.
How long do you think he had to recuperate? Do you know?
I don't know.
When did they get married?
1927.
So the war was over 23?
I don't know, but the war was over and he was back home.
Right.
He was very interested in radio. I think, did you get the radio?
I have his radio.
You have his radio that he built. Very interested in communications, and I don't know how he got from that into being jewelry, watchmaking. But then he worked for the N&W, and he would get on a train and adjust and reset
On
the
the
watches
caboose.
of the train crew. That was one of his jobs. Well, what was the name of the company he worked for?
Rankin Company.
Rankin Jewelers on 4th Street, I believe, was it? 3rd Street, 2nd Street,
I believe it's 2nd Street.
in Roanoke.
I have in the radio. There are a bunch of papers. I don't know if you remember those.
Yeah, sure do.
And I guess it's a copy of a letter that he and his partner sent to the radio manufacturer, asking some questions about the operation of the radio. I think it wasn't operating the way they expected it to, which I thought was interesting. Interesting reading. Do you think that I want to say that it was that the other person he was referring to that person in the sense of a business partnership. Do you think that he had plans on going into business for selling radios, or was this a side business to the
I don't
jewelry
know
stuff?
at all.
Or
Don't know at all.
did he have his own jewelry business, or did he work with somebody
No,
else?
he worked for the jewelry store, and he repaired watches. He did engraving, and he did beautiful engraving. And there was one guy that worked with him, Mr. Balder, who was a German. And he was here during the war. He was in America. And I think it was a pretty tough time for Germans here during the war.
I bet.
And he was a real nice man. But he and Dad worked back in the back with, I guess he was there to fill in when Dad went on the road.
With the railroad.
What's the name of the jewelry store?
Rankin.
Rankin Jewelers. Okay.
I have a jewelry box from a ring or something that came in that I got from your mother's house. So evidently they bought something from there.